Stand. My name is Maud and we are back again for another 2 p.m. show. It is the day after the Man United's last pre-season game, or technically we've still got one more on Saturday, but the summer series is finally over and we're going to get to go through everything that's gone on over these last few games. I know you guys are very frustrated. Some of you are actually happy. There's some positives, there's some negatives, but today we're going to get to go through everything. So make sure you're bringing in all your topics, all your debates, any points that you want to bring up about the summer series. We're going to go through the manager, Amorim, and all of our opinions on that. Each of the players, not every single one of them, but you know, the Mbeumo, Cunha, obviously Mbeumo got his first minutes for United. We're going to get to talk about your Bruno and the defenders, the midfield, serious conversation about the midfield. And yeah, so we're going to have to go through all that today. So make sure you're sending in all of your super chats and we're going to have some real good discussions, a real good debate. Also, there's a little Garnacho conversation we're going to bring in later on. It's an interesting one, so make sure you tune into the show later on as well, because there's a good debate that I want to bring up. But firstly, we all know we want to hear some news, some Manchester United news, and there has been something come out about Benjamin Sesko, and the news is that Leipzig demand 80 million euros fixed for Sesko. 80 million euros fixed, not 75 plus 5 or 80 or 70 plus 10. No, 80 million euros fixed for Sesko. Newcastle have apparently set a timely deadline, but he probably favours Manchester United. Before Sesko gives a commitment to United, he wants to guarantee if the club will be able to pay the transfer fee. Now, I mean, look, this Sesko thing's it's been up and down. There's been so much going on. Newcastle sent in their bid, it's been rejected, and it kind of just looks like Sesko wants to go United. United want Sesko, but they just can't think of a price. It's like the price is either too high for United or it's too low for Leipzig. Realistically, if he wanted to go Newcastle, he would have said straight away, look, United, I appreciate your interest, but this is where I want to go. So, and because Newcastle have been open already about, look, we're going to bid. We want this guy right now. Well, they need him, to be fair. It's like pretty much gone, you know what I mean? So they pretty much need him. We need him as well, but Newcastle are desperate to get in Sesko, and they pretty much put everything on the table and said, we're going to go for you no matter what. So the way I'm looking at it is, if Sesko really wanted to go to Newcastle, if that was really his dream destination to go to, it would have been done by now. He would have just said, he would have come out and said, I want to go to Newcastle, and United would have been like, okay, cool, we can go and focus on whoever else is going to be, Ollie Watkins or whoever, what other options that we have. But the fact that this is still ongoing, I mean, it says here that before Sesko gives a commitment to United, he wants to guarantee the club will be able to pay. It's clear that both parties want to join it, and Sesko clearly wants to come to the club. So look, I think 80 million euros is a lot. I'll be so honest, 80 million euros, it puts a lot of pressure on his back. You know, as an 80 million euro player coming to the Premier League, you have to hit the ground running. You don't really have a bit of leeway. You don't really have time to get your feet wet and kind of ease yourself into the Premier League. They're going to start the 007 talks pretty quickly. The 007 talks are going to start pretty much after the first 7 games. They're not going to wait. It's going to be, is Sesko scored today? No. We're counting it. Has he got an assist? No, we're counting it. They're going to be on his back very, very quickly because of the price tag. And for me, I don't know, for a younger player, 22 years old, just coming into the Premier League, it's going to be difficult. It is going to be difficult. I want him to come because I feel like, yes, it's an improvement. I think he's definitely better than what Højlund was before Højlund came. People are trying to compare them and say, oh, they're both young and they both came from different leagues. If you just look at Sesko's clips and some of his games compared to what Højlund was doing before he came to United, they're not the same player. There's levels. They're not the same player. So I think there's a lot of talent there. My only thing is 80 million euros is a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And if we go and spend pretty much another 8, I mean, we've already spent 132 or something like that. We're going to go spend another 80. That takes us to 210. If my maths is correct, 210, 212, whatever it is. It's a lot of money to spend in one window. Things have to start clicking. They have to start clicking. If you're going to spend that much money, things are going to have to start working. We can't finish 15th again. We can't, even 10th is like you spent 200 million and you finished 10th. It's not great. So, I mean, look, let me know in the chat, what are your opinions on Sesko, 80 million euros? Is that too much? Are we crossing the line there? Is that like, are we going over the threshold? Is 80 million euros a bit over the top? Or do you feel like he's worth it? Is a player of his talent worth 80 million euros? Would you go all out and put it in, put the bid in, or do you feel like, you know what, let's just maybe take a little bit, maybe let's try and lower it to 70 or 75, maybe a little bit less than that. But let me know in the chat. Is 80 million euros a lot? I'm seeing a few people saying like it's far too much. It's too much. Yeah, I think I agree. 80 million. I mean, I'm looking at it like this as well. From the preseason games, which we're gonna get into, we're gonna get into it. There are some clear positions that we need. And if we are going to go and spend 80 million, I just want it to be 80 million very well spent. I want it to be 80 million on a player that I know for the next, even this season and for the next 5 to 10 years, it's sorted. That's it, it's done. 80 million, that's good, great. We don't even have to worry about the position again. That's my mindset when it comes to spending that amount of money right now. But like I said, from looking at pre-season, there's other positions that we need to invest into. If we can save 40 million, even 30 million on a player and go and invest that somewhere else, or save it and in January go and invest it, or next summer go and invest it, I think that could help a lot because, yeah, like I said, we do need a couple other players and a couple other positions in this team. But like I said, let me know in the chat, what are you guys thinking? Someone says, hey, 6'5", number 9. 6'5", number 9. We've needed that for ages. Yeah, we do need a serious, out and out just goal scorer. Someone who's terrifying to defenders. That's exactly what we need. Someone said in here, let's get Watkins, midfielder and goalkeeper. Yeah, I think the midfielder and goalkeeper is what we're going to touch on in a sec. But I agree. We definitely need some more positions in there. Another chat in there says, well, we could do a player swap for Garnacho and Sesko, plus add-ons. Garnacho can regain his potential at his new club and become a proper star boy. I mean, look, I think the best case scenario is if we can do a player swap with either Garnacho or Haaland or one of these players and bring in a Watkins or a Sesko. That is like the dream. If we can do that, that's like, yeah, we've gotten players out of the club, we're bringing players in. It's a positive. We're gaining quality through the players that we're bringing into the team. Yeah, I think everyone would love that. But is it realistic? I'm not too sure. But let me know the price though. Send in your prices. Let me know exactly what price do you feel like is like the max. I want to know the line. Where's the barrier? Where's the line where you say we are not crossing whatever this is? Whether it's 70, 75, 72.5, however specific you want to be, let me know. What is the price where you say, no, we cannot cross this line for Sesko? Let me know what you think about that. There is a super chat in here from WGFVH. It's a cool super name, man. Cool name, man. The catch-22 is yes. Sesko could be worth it if he has sufficient cover and backup, but the fee ensures we can't afford it under current owners. Yeah, I think especially considering what Ineos have kind of preached about how much they want to spend, and they don't really want to make these big money signings. I think 60 to 65 million is kind of their ballpark. That's where they want to be looking at players, and they don't really want to go too much higher, especially considering the age. They have mentioned the fact that they are looking for players under the age of 25. So it does kind of feel like it is pushing kind of the philosophy that they are trying to bring in terms of transfers. But I actually also agree in terms of sufficient cover and backup. If Sesko comes in and he pretty much is our only good striker and we have no real other options, let's say Haaland does end up going out, or I doubt he will, to be fair, but let's say we don't have any great other options, it does kind of, it does put pressure, but it almost feels like what is the plan B? Like, what do we do if it doesn't work? You know, are we just going to go back to Xerxes? Are we going to go back to Haaland? Or are we going to go to Chido? What's the plan B? What are we going to do? Because at least if you've got somebody else there that can chip in or can you rotate in and out with a new signing, it's like, okay, maybe Sesko does start off a bit slow. We can ease him into the Premier League a bit more. But right now it just feels like if it doesn't work, what do we do? Where do we go from there? That's kind of what it feels like. But yeah, another super chat here from Adrian C. Says 80 million is 69 point. Well, you're on the maths thing today. You see, so you said 80 million euros is 69.65 million pounds, which is 23.3 million pounds over 3 years. Just do it. That's a lot of money, you know. Like, I feel like as football fans, we just act like these million pounds is like, it's nothing. Like, it's just normal. Like, I get it. We're used to talking about big money, like, you know, a lot of money, but 23.3 million pounds every year for the next 3 years is a lot of money. Let's not just act like it's nothing. I know we're United and we've got a big club, but it's still a lot of money, you know, like, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, looking through these prices, I'm seeing a range of different ones. Someone says £69. I wonder why you chose that number. 65 million plus 8 to 10 add-ons, 75 max, 65, 75 plus 10 to 20 add-ons, 72, 70 max. Someone's saying 80, to be fair. I've seen quite a few 80s as well. Yeah, so look, that's my opinion on that anyway. I think 80 is a lot. And I know, yeah, 80 million euros is 69 million, whatever Adrian said, 69 million pounds, pretty much 70 million pounds. I think, you know, considering we spent 72 on Sancho, we spent 72 on Højlund, we spent 90 on Anthony. When I'm looking at these high price tags, it's like, you have to hit the ground running now. We can't go spend 70 plus million pounds on another player who's not got much Premier League experience, and it takes 2-3 years for it to work. You're gonna have to work pretty quickly before the pressure starts to pile on, and we all know what happens when the pressure piles on. As a United player, a lot of players kind of sink and they don't swim. So yeah, I think 70 million is a lot, but look, if United go out and do it, we need a striker. So if United go out and do it, I just hope that it works out. That's how I'm gonna go from there. But anyway, let's talk about this pre-season. Now, last night, about 11 p.m., whatever time it was, United played their last pre-season game against Everton. They drew 2-2. Now, I'll be honest, I'll hold my hands up. I watched the first 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes of the game, and I saw some good signs. And in my head, I was like, wow, I'm seeing something I've not seen before in a long time. I'm seeing movements, I'm seeing link-up play, I'm seeing connections with certain players, I'm seeing off-ball runs and one-touch layoffs, and I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? Is this United? Is this the team that I support? I've not seen this in a very, very long time. And I was gassed. I put on Twitter, I said 21's coming. I said, don't worry about it, it's sorted. 21 is coming. Next season, yeah, big ears, yeah, we're going to be holding the trophy. But as the game did go on, it definitely went downhill from there. It definitely went downhill. And look, I think, let's start off. I want to talk about Amorim first of all. Now, the end of last season, not even the end of last season to be fair, for a majority of last season, I constantly just brought up the same thing. And my whole thing with Amorim was, he has the ability right now, or at that moment in time, to make excuses. And they were valid excuses at the time. Injuries were bad, didn't have much quality in the team. The players who are supposed to be good were underperforming. There's not really much you can do when your best players are not playing well. And also, we were kind of clinging on to a Europa League run. So it almost felt like, you know what, Amorim, it's not looking great, but I'm going to give you time. Yeah, I'm going to give you time. Things are not looking like how they should be looking, and I do expect more from the manager and the players. We're going to get to the players in a sec, but specifically the manager, I do expect more, but I'm going to allow the excuses because they are valid and they are true. You know what I mean? However, now that I'm looking at it in pre-season, and it is pre-season, so we're not going to get too overboard. You know, we're just having a conversation right now, just discussion about it. I'm still not fully convinced. I'm still not fully convinced as to if this philosophy and this system that he's bringing into the team, is it a long-term solution? Is this something that United are going to be able to use for the next I mean, he said he wants to be here for 20 years. I mean, I don't know how realistic that is, because what manager stays at a club for 20 years these days? But if he is here for the next 5 to 10 plus years, is this philosophy, is this way of playing football, is it sustainable? And the reason why I'm saying that is there's been times in games, in these couple pre-season games, and even at the end of last season, I remember we beat Aston Villa, 2-0 last game of the season, and we looked pretty good. But there's been times in this pre-season where I thought, you know what, I can see the light, I can see where it's working. Like I said last night, I could see times where I'm thinking, oh, Cunha looks good and Buma looks good linking up with Ahmad, and the defence is looking pretty strong, and the wing backs are looking pretty good. And I thought, you know what, things are looking pretty great. Even the Bournemouth game, the game before that, was it the West Ham game? I think it was the Bournemouth game. I'm watching it thinking, you know what, there's a lot of positive to take from this, and if we can continue to play like this throughout the season, we're going to see some good results. However, I feel like the fact that things can change so quickly, especially determining as to who's on the pitch, for me, it doesn't put confidence into how we're going to play next season. I feel like all it takes is for one player to come out to get subbed in or out, of one player to get injured or whatever it is, and all of a sudden everything just kind of crashes. And for me, I feel like a good system, a good formula, a good way of playing football, you're able to fit in different players, different profiles of players into that system, and it still work. It shouldn't have to be a case of, we need this specific type of player here, and this specific type of player here, and this specific type of player here, and if we don't have that, it's not going to work. For me, that kind of feels a bit fragile. It almost feels like we're going into every game kind of hoping for the best. We don't actually know what we're going to get, but we're kind of hoping that this works with these players. Now, again, we're not going to get too overboard. We're not going to say Amorim, whatever, Amorim out and all this. We're not Arsenal fans. We're not going to do all of that. But there's just questions. It's questions that I'm bringing up. I feel like we need to discuss these kind of things, because I'm still not fully, like I said, I'm not convinced as to exactly if this is something that's going to work for the long term. And like I said, from watching the game last night and from watching other games, it almost feels like it's very up and down, as in one game, mainly when Ugarte looked like the best partnership, and then the next game they both look like they can't start for us. You know what I mean? It kind of feels like, well, how do we know if it's going to work every single game? How do we even know he's going to be able to start every single game? Is Cunha going to be able to start as a striker one game? Is he going to be able to start as a 10? Is I don't know, Ahmad going to be able to start as a 10 or as a right winger? Where does he look like he's the best? Is Bruno going to be able to start as a 10 or in the midfield? Is he even, I mean, we're going to get to Bruno in a sec, but where does he fit into this team right now, in terms of where is his best position? Because I don't think he has the greatest games, in my opinion. And yes, he scored penalties and he scored that other great goal from that outside the box, like a little chip. But it's not convincing, and I feel like we should be able to get the best out of Bruno. We should be thinking, how can we get the best out of this player? But it's not looking too convincing for me. But look, that's my opinion so far. Let me know in the chat what you guys are thinking on that, but also your opinion on Amorim in general. How do you feel like we've been played? Do you feel like it's working? Are you seeing more positives than negatives? Because last season there was a lot of negatives, slight positives in certain places, but a lot more negatives. Are you confident? Let me know in the chat. Let me send in your super chats as well, and we can discuss everything you want to say. Super chat from Carl Robinson. It's an awful, talking about the Sesko thing. It's an awful, foolish deal. 2 centre mids, keep Højlund. Okay, I mean, I do think we need centre mids, like I said before, but I think foolish is a bit strong. Super chat from WGFVH, high prices get riskier the longer we leave it, facts. And super chat from B-Rad-B, would Watkins cost the same though 8 years older? No, he wouldn't cost the same. He would nowhere near cost 80 million. Nobody in their right mind is spending 80 million, 70 million, 60 million on Ollie Watkins. Not because he's a bad player, but realistically, that's just not realistic. But yeah, let me know what are your opinions so far on the way we've been playing throughout pre-season. Do you feel like there are positives? Is there something to go off? Is there something where you can say, you know what, I'm liking what we're seeing. There's a clear improvement now that we've actually had a pre-season. I mean, that was one of the excuses that people gave last season. Amorim didn't have a pre-season. We needed to give him a pre-season. We needed to give these players time to work on the training ground and whatnot. They've had the time now. They've had the time. They've had not the most time, but they've had a time to kind of work. Is it looking positive? You know, but yeah, let me know. Let me know. Send me your super chats. Someone says in here, Every great team or system in history has key positions which require key profiles. I think there's a difference between having like a world-class player in a specific position, which works the best in that system. For example, like let's say look at City. City I think is a good example because Pep has his philosophy, which he's always had since Barcelona. It's the same thing he's still doing till today, but he's changed the profiles of players in different positions, and it still worked. It still works. You look at City's striker position. How many times has Pep played with an out-and-out striker like Haaland? He hasn't always done that. Even at Barca, he didn't really have an out-and-out number 9. Suarez was not Suarez. He was playing as a striker them days. Obviously, Messi was kind of playing like a false 9. At the point with City where he had like Foden playing like a false 9 even. Obviously, he had Aguero at one point. Different players to what Haaland is, but it still worked. It still worked. Even with the winger situation, Doku and Savinho are very different to Grealish and Bernardo Silva, or Grealish and Foden, or whoever else, what other wingers are out. I feel like with a good system, with a good formula, you can fit in different profiles and you can still make it work. Now again, these are just debates, these are just conversations, but does this system work if you can change the profiles of different positions? I don't think it does. I think the system it can only work if you fit in the perfect profile for the majority of the positions, especially in that midfield. I don't think we can just get away with just putting in 2 players that are just good players into that midfield. We can't just get away with it because, like I said, we've seen games where Mainoo and Ugarte have worked very, very well, and they've looked like the best combination that we've got. And then there's other games where we put them in, and it's like, this isn't working. They're getting run through, the midfield's getting overloaded, they're not compact enough, we need another player in there, or they're not quick enough or not physical enough, they need to be able to do this and that. It seems, like I said, a bit volatile, a bit fragile, depending on the players that you've got in there. But yeah, let me know, like, what do you agree? Someone said, unfortunately, we don't have a player as good as David Villa. Yeah, I mean, if we did, then cool. Like, but we don't. We don't. But yeah, it was David Villa. But yeah, that's my opinion on there anyway. On Amorim, I think it's a conversation that needs to be had because at the end of the day, I don't really want to go into next season and it's just like every single game. Like last season was a struggle. It was a struggle as a United fan. It was a real struggle having to just watch every game, not even knowing if we're gonna show up or not knowing what players are gonna play, not knowing what you know any real. Let's be honest, we didn't really know what was gonna happen every single game. We kind of just went there blinded, thinking let's just hope that something good happens. And I kind of want to go in with at least a better mindset of, okay, I know exactly the kind of players, the players that are gonna play each game. I know what the best partnership's gonna be in that midfield. I know what the best link up in terms of like the right hand side and the left hand side, which we're gonna get into as well in terms of wing backs. It is a bit, yeah. I want to go into next season with a bit more confidence into this team, but I don't have the most. I'll be honest. I know it's a bit negative, but I don't have the most confidence right now going into next season. But look, moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about some other players. But before we even get into that, I want to do a little plug for That's Football. I'm not too sure. In fact, Greg, can you let me know? Is Mark going to do a watch along tomorrow for this weekend for the Liverpool and Crystal Palace Community Shield game? I'll let you guys know if he's going to be doing a watch along this weekend. He might be, but even if he's not, That's Football is a platform where all football outside of Manchester United, Premier League, Champions League, international games, anything, that's where all the content from Mark and from the studio as well, we're going to be releasing a lot of content over that channel throughout the whole of next season. So make sure you're checking out the channel, subscribe to it, go and look at it right now. There's videos every single day. Like I said, all football, all the transfer news, which is a lot going on. There's a lot going on outside of United. Let's be honest, we've probably been the slowest team, the most quiet team when it comes to transfers this season. But there's been so much going on, so make sure you're checking out That's Football. And like I said, I'm gonna get that information to you hopefully by the end of the show, but there could be another watch along. I know United obviously playing Fiorentina on Saturday, so you definitely see watch along from Mark on this channel, but there could be another one on Sunday as well. But make sure you're checking out That's Football, and there will be another show later on as well, 8 PM show with Mark later on, so make sure you check that out as well. But look, let's talk a little about the players as well. Let's talk a bit about the players. Now, Mbeumo did have his first game. Now, straight away, what are your opinions on Mbeumo? Straight away, what are your opinions on Mbeumo? Now, for me, I think I think that was like in the first like couple minutes of the game, he did one little first touch layoff. And I thought, okay, it was clean. It was clean. I thought, okay, so at least I know he's a little bit sharp. He's not fully sharp because from watching the rest of the first half, there was times where, he was losing the ball here and there. Again, not going to get too carried away, but he's obviously not fully match fit or not fully sharp. And I mean, he hasn't played, he's not had the ability to play as much as the other players. But there are positives. I think he does fill a big void in that attack, which we've been missing for a while. I think we've been missing for the whole of last season. And I think the qualities that he possesses in terms of, I've heard Amorim say this a lot, but he wants the team to work like mad dogs. Absolute like workhorses. And from what I've seen so far, him, Cunha, we know Bruno likes to run anyway. Ahmad loves to run and get up and down the pitch. Dorgu likes to run and get up and down the pitch. We know Ugarte is already, he's got a lot of energy. We have those players in the team now. We've got players in the team that are going to work like mad. They're going to run up and down that pitch. They're going to track back. None of this walking around and almost, appearing like players are playing lazy or no. The players that we've got in this team right now are absolute workhorses, which is one thing I love. That's one thing that I like to see as well, a lot from this team, because, like I said, there have been times in the past with certain players where, they're walking back, they're not tracking back quick enough, they're not pressing. From what I've seen so far, we've got some real mad dogs, as Amorim likes to call them, in this team, which is what I like. And I think Mbeumo, he's slotted in there straight away. And I think that's one thing that I definitely want to see from him, outside of just his actual just playing ability. Super chat in there quickly, I'm going to read from Peter. He said he's had 3 players in a team. He's had 3 players in a team that most said need an overhaul. I think some really poor analysis there. You need to look at all avenues, not just Amorim. Look, we're going to get into all the players. My thing with Amorim in terms of the play, in terms of, he said he's had 3 players into the team. Now, when I look at, like I said, already mentioned that we're going to need another midfielder. I think that's definitely one thing that we've realised over the last 3 games, that it is so clear in terms of as in the profile of a midfield that can actually come in there and be more athletic and whatnot, more physical in that midfield. We do need somebody in there, because the way the system's looking, we can't just play with Manu and Ugarte every single game. There will be games that it will work, but like I said before, it doesn't feel like that midfield is going to work every single game, and we're going to need some reinforcements into that midfield that's going to change certain things. Goalkeeper, do I even need to bring up the goalkeeper? Because that's a conversation that we've had a lot already. Another position that is desperately needed. Bayandere, it's just not. He's just never going to be the first choice keeper for United. Obviously, Onana's not really played. He hasn't played any preseason games, but I've been saying for a long time he's never going to be our first choice keeper in the long run. That's another position that we desperately need. But then when you look at the rest of the team, I'll be honest, and this is where I actually disagree. A lot of people are quick to say we need an overhaul. But then when I start to name certain players, it's like, oh no, he's a good player. No, he can stay. He's good. I like him. He's good. He can play. Oh no, we need to keep him. He's good. Where does the overhaul come into it? Because it almost feels like we only need an overhaul for players that aren't really playing a lot. And when I look at the team, and I'm going to go through a certain players. For example, I look at Lenny Yoro, great player. If I ask most United fans, they would say should probably start every game. In fact, he might be. There's an argument to say Lenny Yoro could end up being our player of the season next year, because I think he's such a great talent, and it's not even a case of potential anymore. He's obviously going to grow and improve. But right now, Lenny Yoro is that player. Right now, from what I'm seeing, he is probably our best centre-back. He has it right now, and he's going to get better, which is even more exciting. So that's a player that a lot of people like. Then you look at someone like Mazraoui. A lot of people would have said, even last season and this season going forward, they like Mazraoui. They think he should start. They think he's probably one of our best options in terms of right and left centre back. And then you look at players like De Ligt and Maguire. Everyone was loving Maguire last season. A lot of people, we've done polls on the show a lot of polls, and a lot of people said they would keep Maguire for another season. A lot of people said they like De Ligt, they want to see De Ligt play more, or they want to see De Ligt start. Martinez, a lot of people said, when Martinez comes back, they want to see him start. Aid in Heaven. There's quite a few. In terms of the centre-back position, there's not really been that many complaints. In fact, I think most people would say that centre-backs, we're actually pretty good and we don't need to bring too many players in. Then we look at the full-backs. Not full-backs, the wing-backs. I think Ahmad is Ahmad. Ahmad's the Ivorian Messi. I think a lot of people are very, very comfortable saying that, you know what, Ahmad is our right wing back going into next season. And I think he has to be fair, because, I mean, when I looked at Dalot yesterday, yeah, it's not a difficult conversation anymore. I think a lot of people know, and I did a video already about this. I think Dalot's not got a starting position in this team anymore. I think going to next season, it's looking like as wing backs, it's Ahmad and Dorgu, and if it's not those two players, there's a drop in quality. I think that's clear. I think if it's not those two players in there, I think there's a serious drop in quality. But again, two players who, if I was to ask people right now, are those two players players that are good players that you want to see at United? A lot of people say yes. People wouldn't disagree. So again, good players in the team that people like. Then you look at the midfield. Now, this is where the conversations start. Bruno, very 50-50 in my opinion. A lot of people love him. A lot of people don't like him. We have debates all the time in the forum group chats and whatever about Bruno Fernandes. Where's his best position? Is it as a 10? Can he play as one of the 6s? Does it work? Does it work with Bruno playing there? Is he disciplined enough? Does he? I mean, one of the goals yesterday, I think they scored it whilst Bruno was arguing with a player. And I looked at it and I just thought, it just doesn't help his case at all when we're conceding goals. And I've seen Bruno shoving another player at the halfway line. I'm thinking, you're supposed to be our captain. You're supposed to be the player who's supposed to lead by example. And I'm seeing this kind of things, and this isn't like a first time we've seen Bruno get into little tiffs and all that kind of stuff with other players. And just in terms of quality on the pitch, I mean, I'll be honest, I think Mason Mount has probably played better than Bruno in the little cameos that I've seen from him in pre-season. And I know Bruno has scored and goals are great, and I am one of the biggest Bruno fans. Everyone who watches the show will know that I'm one of the biggest fans, but I'm honest about it. I'll be honest, when I see Bruno not play well, he hasn't played that great. First touch hasn't been clean, he misses passes here and there. Yes, he can play that ball, which can unlock a defence, and it is almost like a luxury to have that kind of player in your team. But from watching pre-season, again, debates and questions around Bruno Fernandes, the problem is, and I'm going to say this, yeah, and we've got a little bit of time. Well, the show's actually pretty much done, and I'm going to kind of touch on this quickly. The problem that Bruno Fernandes is going to have next season is the whole team isn't relying on him anymore. And I think last season, one of the biggest problems was that if it wasn't Bruno, who else was it going to be? That was the problem that United had. Ahmad was injured for a large period of last season. And in terms of the other attacking players, Højlund, Xerxes, Garnacho, there wasn't much other options in there to kind of fill that void that we had in terms of getting goals or creating goals. It was Bruno or nothing pretty much last season. Now that we've got Cunha, now that Ahmad's obviously he's still here, but he's obviously not injured. Now that we've got Mbumo and potentially getting another striker, the conversation isn't necessarily going to be if it's not Bruno, who is it? It's more going to be if Bruno's not playing well, things are going to have to change, and things will change quickly. I think Amorim's the kind of manager, he's not going to sit there and think, oh, but I love Bruno so much, I have to play him every game. If Amorim's got a bit of wit about him, he's going to see in certain games, he's going to see potentially Bruno not playing well, and he's going to think, if I don't change things right now, we're going to lose this game. I'm going to go and bring in somebody else because I know that I've still got Cunha on the pitch, I've still got Mbumo on the pitch, I've still got Ahmad on the pitch. These are still players that can make something happen. Whereas last season, he couldn't necessarily bring Bruno off because if he brought him off, who is he going to replace him with? Who's going to fill in that void of creating or scoring a goal? And I think that's going to be a serious, not serious, but it's going to be an issue for Bruno next year, because if he doesn't step up in certain games, and it is looking like he is more of a liability rather than a positive, there's going to be quite a few games where you might see Bruno getting subbed off, even though he is the captain, because we're going to have other options that can kind of fill in that void. So that's really where I sit with Bruno right now. I'm still the biggest Bruno fan, don't get it twisted. I'm still going to defend him in a lot of games, but there's going to be bigger conversations next season as to whether or not Bruno is playing every single game or playing 90 minutes every single game, because we're going to have better options, or more options anyway, in that attacking department. So look, that's where I kind of stand on Bruno Fernandes. But anyway, look, the show is run very, very quickly. So there would have been there's so much more to talk about, but you know what? We've got the whole season to talk about players, so we're gonna get to jump in and have those conversations another time. But anyway, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. I've just got confirmation there is a watch along for the Community Shield game. That is on Sunday. I'm guessing the game starts at about 12:30. They usually start pretty early, but 3 o'clock kickoff. Okay, cool. 3 o'clock kickoff on Sunday, Community Shield. Mark is going to be doing a watch along. So you got 2 watch alongs back to back in 2 days. You're going to have the Florentina game on Saturday, and then you've got the watch along for the Liverpool Crystal Palace Community Shield on Sunday. So make sure you check that out on That's Football. It'll be over there. You'll be live on that channel. And yeah, so thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. And I'm going to see you again on the next one.